AI systems are getting powerful. They're increasingly being entrusted with helping make decisions to transform enterprises and society. As high value assets, they are also becoming vulnerable to new types of cybersecurity attacks called artificial intelligence attacks. They are different from traditional cybersecurity attacks and have larger ramifications. These attacks are being orchestrated to manipulate AI systems, change their behavior to serve malicious goals, and create a very, very different kind of a risk proposition. My name is Snehanshu, and I lead the AI practice at NASSCOM. It's my pleasure to welcome and introduce Manojkumar Parmar, Global Program Director, AI Shield at Bosch, to discuss security solutions for AI systems. Just to introduce Manoj, Manoj is a senior technologist with a demonstrated history of working for emerging and deep technology fields and also automotive engineering industry. He's responsible for designing, leading, and driving tech-oriented strategy for his organization. He's skilled in algorithms, control system designs, data science, machine learning, computing, blockchain, IoT, and he has published numerous research papers. He's also a visiting faculty, technical committee member of 6 prestigious international conferences. He's reviewer of 7 renowned internal conferences, and is also the chair of IEEE conference session. Manoj, welcome to this session and great to have you join us today.
Thank you, Shreyans. Thanks for that warm words.
Lovely. So let us dive straight into this. One of the things that I wanted to ask you as the first question was, why do you think that AI is becoming a real focal point in cybersecurity these days?
Okay. So Snehanshu, cybersecurity, as many of the people know, right, it's mainly a manual activity where you really have to go through the lot of logs, lot of the behaviors of the user in order to do this kind of possible threat hunting or the possible malicious behaviors and activities to really see into. And we have already seen cases where the hackers would have penetrated the systems and the organization would have realized after 6-7 months, is because it's lot of manual work which gets involved. The good part is that this lot of manual work is also a structured and systematic way. And with this new era of an AI, what we are able to leverage is that this pattern matching capability of an AI, where it is able to learn the patterns, it is able to identify the malicious patterns on its own. And that's why cybersecurity industry is looking AI as a tool or a helping hand to expedite their manual work, which is essentially augmenting them to do a lot of groundwork so that the AI can flag the really this kind of an incidents, and therefore they can take over from that point and investigate further. It is also coupled with another underlying trend is that the need of a cybersecurity engineers is increasing tremendously. And we don't have an easy way out of this because it is restricted by the number of people who are entering into the field or people reskilling. So this gap between the demand and supply is also the one of the factor which is driving organization to look for the automation, and AI is helping them. So these are the two main things that I see, one from the technologies capability and second is the market demand, which is driving this huge adoption of an AI into the cybersecurity domain.
Makes sense. Makes sense. And you see, with the increasing complexity of networks and AI applications and the whole push towards the DevOps area to create new outputs every time, cybersecuring your applications is becoming fairly complex, right? Correct. The question is, how can enterprises more effectively manage their security services? And how do you manage identity and access management?
Okay. So let's first talk about the DevOps. So for a general people, right, the DevOps has 2 parts. One is the development, one is the operations. And if you really ask, where does the security lie? The security lies also in the development and also in the operations. And one of the major question that, or the let's say the major impediments from development teams and operation teams were always that the security is an afterthought for them. Security always used to come at the very end. And if the security raises a flags or anything, nobody likes it. So they were seen as us versus them kind of in a scenario. And therefore the newer approach is emerging, which is called the DevSecOps, where the security is integrated as a part of a DevOps cycle. And this entire new paradigm is called the DevSecOps. And here the security is very specifically done in a such a way that it utilizes the various kind of tools, which are the static, dynamic, interactive tools, to do the various levels of security things, and also checks the vulnerability. And all of this thing are happening in automated way. And the whole idea behind this is shift the security left, not on the right side. So push the security as early as possible so that you don't have any late surprises. So as an enterprise, if I am looking to build the digital applications which I want to frequently deploy, it is
Mhm.
advisable that I integrate security also as a part of a pipeline and not have
Right.
that isolated thing. So
As an
therefore the
afterthought.
yes, so that's where the DevSecOps kind of a concept really drives into this entire thing there. Now, if you asked about the identity and access management, which is also the link concept of the DevSecOps, when you look into the security, the one of the biggest issues across all of this incident is somebody getting forging the identity and getting an access to your system mainly. And whole thing is that people have gone into the way that they really want to have this identity itself secured, because that is the weakest link that people have figured it out. And therefore you see the new era of federated identity management which is coming, which is very prevalent in the, say, commercial applications, B2C kind of applications. You will see on many of your applications you say that log in with Google or sign up with Facebook or sign up with Apple and things like this, which is the federated identities. On the other hand, what organizations are doing is that they are looking into the identity and access management as a single identity to manage across organizations. One of the issues which came up in the lot of security related incidents is that organizations were managing the systems in silo, and the system had their siloed identity and access management. So if somebody can individually penetrate one system and nobody will able figure it out that it is there or not. So over the period of time, organizations has gone into something called as single sign-on or a single identity for all of their application. And with this new trend, what is happening is that you are able to correlate the activities of your users or anyone and able to figure it out if there are some, let's say, the malicious behavior or malicious patterns which are coming up. So organization single identity is actually working. And now we will see that it is taken to the next level where we have the self-sovereign identity. That means we don't want organizations to manage identity. We want the control of our identity with us. So this is the newer trend which is coming up, but it is still a far way to really see the day of a light in that
Let's
case.
build on that. That's a wonderful thought. Let's build on that a little more. And Manoj, there's also this whole growing understanding that implementing artificial intelligence is a complex process. It
Yes.
needs a lot of precision and detail. Now, in the context of cybersecurity, talk to us a little about the implementation roadmap and the playbook for making your AI application secure since the beginning. There's a point that you just made, right? So if
Correct.
you can build on that a little more, it would be very useful.
Yes. So let's see that first how the organizations work with the AI systems and what kind of AI systems. So you generally take the data, you process this data, you test for certain sanity check on your data. Then you go into the model building, and once you are satisfied fairly that your model works, you push it for the deployment. And this is the entire pipeline which generally comes up, right? And and there are two kind of pipelines that we have seen. One is that for the mission critical systems, and one is for the normal systems. For an example, if any normal system, let's say the recommendation system, if it is going for a toss, let's say, or it is hacked, it has its impact, but the impacts are not so significant. But if you take the case of an autonomous driving kind of an cases, right, where you have the AI system which gets hacked, it has an implications on the life of a human, and that means it is serious implications. So based upon these two levels of an AI systems that you want to deploy it, you see a different kind of a security risk at different places across this entire life cycle of data collections to data processing to model training and the deployment. Uh, Two examples that I want to give, let's say that one is called the poisoning, which is at the very state of at the very beginning of a data modeling process, data gathering, data collection, data modeling process. When you are collecting data, you are simply collecting data. What if there is an adversary who knows that you are collecting some kind of a data and intentionally puts up a wrong sample of a data in your model or in your collection, and does it so strategically that you will not figure it out that this is a wrong data or malicious data, and you keep using that, and you train your model, and then you deploy this model because it meets all of your criteria. But when it is there in the field, and when it is again exposed to this kind of a malicious input, it behaves badly, and which is a corner case which you might not have seen. And this is the kind of an attack which is called data poisoning. We have seen this kind of an attacks being played out in the public domain when one of the large company deployed their chatbot uh, over a Twitter to demonstrate their, their proficiency of an AI and everything. And people started feeding some random information, and most likely targeted negative information to this chatbot. And this chatbot has a learning mechanism. It learned, and from the deployment to the next 6 hours, it turned racist, it turned abusive, and started abusing the people. Now, because it was fed in a way that it didn't realize that the data is wrong, it simply learned from that pattern. And this is a very important case that we have to keep it in mind, because this is not new case. In 2008 movie, which autonomous, called say the plane kind of in a movie, there was a very interesting dialogue which the designer says that this plane can learn from Mowgli and Changiz Khan. It doesn't differentiate between both of them. And this is also the problem with an AI. It doesn't know, it doesn't have that consciousness to decide from where to learn, where not to learn. And you can utilize this as one of the attack vectors to
Flaws
attack
and
this.
vulnerability.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Data poisoning, ladies and gentlemen, this is a very, very interesting concept.
Yeah.
And I'm sure this is not the first time or this is not the last time
Yes.
you will hear about this term. Wonderful, wonderful perspective, Manoj. But, it is also somewhat concerning that AI today is also being made use by cyber criminals, right? Security and privacy concerns are rampant, and these kind of concerns around AI systems quite often become the focus point of our conversations, focus point of consumers who are basically leveraging uh, an input or an output from an AI system. Now, do you think that this will have its own role to play in sort of disrupting the underlying trust people would like to place on artificial intelligence systems? How do you look at that?
So let's say the digital trust. I will like to convert this, what you said, as a trust, as a digital trust. Today, you and me are interacting much more with machines than with the humans. Even machines have become a gateway to interact with humans. So if we do not establish the digital trust with the machines, it also means that we are letting go of big opportunities at other places. And people are fairly skeptical also about digital trust for many reasons. One of them is that you mentioned that cybersecurity criminals are using it, and it is not new. I'll just give you the example. You and me use, let's say, the any kind of a mail services, right? We receive the emails from other people's, and by default each and every email service has something called a spam detector built in, whose whole job is to ensure that you don't receive the spam and you don't fall for that. So that's the first line of a defense.
Yeah.
Now, very interestingly, researchers in 2019 had demonstrated with one of this industry leading spam filter designers, which is a third party service which gives them to the organizations, that they were able to send a certain emails to the system and get a response from the system and identify that whether this particular email was considered good or considered spam. And just by utilizing this information with the mails of, that it is good or a spam, they were able to reconstruct the entire model, that how this spam filter is working in the background. So this is how the hackers were able to reconstruct the entire AI model, where they use this AI to get an understanding of a spam filter. And they realized when they did the diagnosis on this reconstructed model, that the filter was working on certain keywords, and it was determining certain keywords good, certain keywords bad, and based upon the ratio of this good keyword to bad keyword, they were defining whether it is a spam or not. Now, researchers who got this entire model and got this diagnostics, they crafted the spam emails and ensured that the good words ratios are just higher than the bad words ratio, and they just simply beat the spam filter. Now you tell me, as an organization, I have paid enough money to the spam filter providers to, give a protection against the spam things to all of my employees and all of my consumers. But it is being simply beaten. Now, how do you really work around this? And this is just a one example where this attack is specifically called a model extraction attack, where they have extracted the model and then utilize it to evade the entire system. And combination of model extraction and evasion mechanism is having a big issue. And now answering your question with this example is that with this simple thing, the digital trust in the spam filter is completely eroded. And now how do I build a trust again is a very big question for the industry. And that's where we are also discussing with a lot of industry players together, that how do you prevent this kind of attack so that you don't have to let go your brand reputations and let go of the trust that you have. So here is prevention is better than cure is the approach, and we have formed a consortium, a global consortium around this to talk about this specific topic alone. So just
Can't agree more. Can't agree more. Again, the context of this particular question, prevention is absolutely better than cure. It would be several times more costly to
yeah
build that or restore that faith or trust back in the AI systems or digital systems, as we call it. Completely with you. I'll take a moment to change the direction of the conversation a little and focus a little more on the practical aspect of
sure.
talent, right? And it is here that we are looking at industry reports. They seem to tell us that there are about 3.5 million unfulfilled cybersecurity jobs, by 2021, which is the year that we are closing out on. And these numbers are constantly increasing depending upon which source you reference.
Okay.
A couple of things that I would like to understand from you, since you're invested in the space. This is possibly, assuming that the numbers are true, this is possibly an alarming situation, right? Given the rate at which cyber threats are growing, and you spoke about some of the examples, some of the specific things. What are your thoughts on this? And do you think in some ways AI will be able to help address this skill gap?
Okay. That's a good question. And this goes back to the previous question that when we discussed about that why AI is being adopted heavily in the cybersecurity domain is that supply and demand gap as such. So my thought is that this numbers, whichever source you refer, the pattern is alarming, which is increasing trend. So you can be off by factor of 2 or 1, doesn't matter, but the trend is increasing day by day. And that is an alarming point rather than the absolute number. And that is because the digital adoption or digital transformation of various organizations are pushing more and more digital assets into the field. And therefore, you need more and more experts or talent to secure them. So that's the whole reason that why it is growing up. Now, on the other hand, the cybersecurity is not considered so much as in a traditional field of a study. And I'll just give you the example. You will have a BTech for computer science, and within that there will be a one course which will be there on the information security, and which will be very, very small. But the application of that course into the real world is very negligible. That means you have to build your entire knowledge base of the cybersecurity, not from your studies, but doing certain certifications, doing through the rigorous other courses and things like this. So it essentially means that this is a domain of a reskilling where majority of them are doing. And that is also causing an issue that demand is, the supply is also not going up drastically. Like AI, suddenly the computer science guys realize that, okay, that programming, everything, AI comes up, demand went up, supply also went up in a similar way. There was a gap, but it went up. Now in cybersecurity, the supply is pretty much flat, and that is more alarming in my analysis with respect to the talent front.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, it is very clear that robust security systems would need to absolutely keep pace with this whole trend of increasing adoption of artificial intelligence for critical tasks. Well, that was very, very insightful from you, Mano. It was great to get your perspective. That's all the time that we have today. Stay connected with us. Thank you. Till the next time, stay safe. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.